We're ready to start.
Well, it's another Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, and 11 o'clock United Kingdom time. I'm guessing. I don't know. I hate these time zones, but welcome to Together We Serve TV show. Let me ask you a question. Are you human? Do you know other humans? I hope if you're not raising your hand, we got some big problems here. We're going to talk about humans and this phrase that I love, social capital. It's about serving. And we're going to talk about how social capital can affect your life in such a positive way, but when it becomes negative, how we can basically fix that. So let's bring our guest on. Rick, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve. Really glad to be here.
So, what do you think when I say social capital? What comes to your head?
Oh, well, I mean, because of the years I've spent looking at it and the different ways I've spent looking at it, a whole lot of things. But for me, I mean, it really inspires memories of connection for me just around researching the topic and all the people that I've met connecting with the topic. So, I have definitions swirling around in my head, the value of human connection, things like that. But for me, it makes me think of people all over the world that I've met because of the pursuit of it. So it's so many things come up for me when I hear social capital.
And you smile, and I smile too because it's such a powerful thing. Capital, if we look at it for a financial, we want to increase our capital. If I got $1,000 in the bank, January 1st, 2026, December 31st, 2020, I want 100,000, 10,000. I want it to grow. I want to build my capital. How does that look like when it comes to humans and social?
Yeah, it's been an interesting topic because a lot of people will hear the capital element there, and it's hard for them to connect it to social because when we think of um, capital, we think of durable stock, that thing that we can actually build that you were talking about, Steve. We want something to grow. It's something we can note. So, you think about a truck as durable stock. You understand the value of a truck. You know all the things that a truck can do, the things you could use a truck for. So, in the research, in the conversation over the years, we've really been looking at social capital as the impact of what it does. And you could look at the value of a truck as the impact of what it does, what its function is, creates its value. You may use it to take trash to the dump. You may use it to move furniture. You may use it to just as a mode of transportation. And those are all things that the truck does, but we understand that that truck has an innate known value. It is that durable stock. So it's hard to really um, to explain that durable stock when we talk about social capital, but we're actively trying to do that. And specifically, not even me, but a couple of other researchers, Tristan Claridge and Lyndon Robinson, they're looking into what is that durable stock of social capital so we can move away in the literature from looking at measuring just what the outcomes are and look at measuring what that durable stock, that thing we build up is. And I think that is innately individual to the human and part of the human experience. Um, what we do with that stock is interact with other humans, do great things, connect and speak like we are right now. But yeah, it's exciting times for social capital.
It is. And it's, you must be a truck guy. I'm a truck guy. When you said trucks, I'm like, yeah, you nailed it. So we're truck guys. And you non-truck guys, you could just use a Tesla too if you want, or a Hyundai. It doesn't matter the car. You know what's interesting about social capital is we can customize it. Like we don't have to please everyone. We don't have to have that because capital can come from stocks, from trading forex, from there's many ways to build your capital. It's my choice. That isn't the same way as social capital.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have different ways of interacting with our environment. Someone may need our physical strength. Someone may need our networking skills. Someone might need, affection and love from us in a romantic relationship. The way we interact with human beings is similar to the way that a truck would interact with the various things you could use a truck for. And I've run into a couple of people since I've been using this analogy, which I've recently picked it up, that it's harder to connect the concept with because we're talking about the internal perceptions and experience of the human being, and I'm calling that a truck. So I just want to clarify. I know it is a little bit of a far cry in the complexity of our experience,
Mhm.
but yeah, the way that we are able to utilize and call upon that durable stock that is our social capital, just as we can do those things for other humans, we may ask other humans to do those things for us. And our ability to call upon that is where that capital lies. We build up relationships over time through trust and all the constructs that make social capital. And in that time, that moment when there is need and we need to um, pull upon that durable stock, that capital, it is available for us to do that.
That's so well said. It gets me excited because Together We Serve, the TV show, fits this so well. Talk about those three words where it comes in play with social capital.
Which word, Steve? I
And Together
apologize.
We Serve, the name of
Oh,
this
together.
TV show.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, recently through conversations with Tristan Claridge, I've been talking about their work, him and Lyndon, in regards to that durable stock and the human experience. The thing about it is although this durable stock lives within each individual human being, in order to enact social capital, it's a connection point between two human beings, and that's where the together piece comes. Together we serve in regards to social capital, it is in direct alignment because when you enact that durable stock, you call upon them, they call upon you, you do things together. Not only are you getting it done, you're getting it done in a more efficient manner, or you're getting it done in a way that you couldn't have done by yourself at all if you're relying on skills of theirs that you do not have. So you're exponentially increasing what you're capable of through interacting with another human being through that concept. The more human beings that you add in, the numbers go up immediately. By the time you get to a third person in the mix, the possibilities are exponentially increased of all the things that you can accomplish, all the things that can happen with the three of you. And work's already been done in that regard by Lyndon Robinson and Tristan Claridge to define all of the various relationships that you see when there's a third person involved in that way, and therefore all of the possibilities that increase because of that. So together we serve, absolutely. I mean, social capital, the when it becomes an action, when that durable stock is called upon, you immediately interact with the concept of together we serve because you're doing something with another human being. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's literally a match made in podcast heaven.
Amen. It does. And words that come to mind is mastermind, incredible social capital, community, tribe, the different words that we lost when COVID came in. Do you think
Mm.
social capital is more important now than almost ever because of COVID?
Yeah, I think COVID set us on this course of, this increase in the loneliness epidemic that we're seeing because we started interacting with the world completely different, and we created new services of convenience during that time, which I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't utilize. I utilize DoorDash, I utilize some of these other services, but that's keeping me from going out and interacting with the world in traditional ways that I would. I'm not grocery shopping. I'm not having the potential to interact with all of those human beings. I'm not going. If you get whatever you utilize the services for, any service that keeps you um, at home, creating efficiency for you. Once again, I'm not knocking the service. I think there's benefits to these things, but we've created so many instances of efficiency over connection within our existence. And it all really, like I said, kicked off with COVID, where we were directed to stay home for our health, for our safety, making sure we're not spreading viruses to anyone else. But it really, things did not go back to any you know version of a pre-COVID existence at all. We are forever changed, forever adapted. And once you get into the habit, once you create a neural pathway that becomes a habit for you, it's very hard to get out of that without some intense intentionality behind it. If you've created a system that is efficient for you, your default does not have you get out of that. Why would you do something that is less efficient for yourself without intentionality behind it?
I I'm rarely speechless. I am because I'll tell you, it happened to me. I work from home and I
Mhm.
work out from home. I've been doing it for since I got, 3, 4 years. But my wife said, you probably need to get kudos to my wife. She says, it's probably good to get out. Well, that first time I went out to the gym to work out was inefficient to me. I'm thinking I missed this and this. I've been doing it now for 5 months. I just came back from the gym. You bringing up all this stuff. I maybe like, hey Andres, hey, I met a lady that used to work for me. We got to talk for
Yeah.
10 minutes. I miss all that when I work out at home, even though it's efficient. But you're right. The effective curve of that, it was hard for me because it's easy for
Yeah.
me to get up, go to my treadmill, go to my
Yep.
bands, and do my workout, and then come back to work. But I
Absolutely.
overwork too. That's the other thing. It gets me away from overworking over whatever I'm doing as well.
Yeah. We
Yes.
I mean, and you make all kinds of excuses. We just use the gym, right? You talk about it feeling inefficient. Well, at the very least, you've lost the drive time, and you could use that as an excuse to not do it. Well, I'm going to lose all that drive time. There are things I think that are beneficial about that downtime, that drive time. You're not stuck on a screen. You have a moment to yourself. Maybe you can contemplate, breathe. Either way, though, I mean, you like I said, it is in the grand scheme of things. When we consider how many hours there are in a day, it is less efficient, and you have to be intentional about breaking that and seeing the greater benefit.
That's the hard part about it. Everybody's talking to us, gurus, coaches, mentors. Be more time efficient. Don't work your 80 hours, which is all good. So this is, excuse my language, ass backwards from what we're hearing from the noise. And it's good
Yeah.
noise. I don't want to say it's bad. Because I have gurus I listen to, hey, save time, hire somebody. So what you just said is like, well, but you know what? When I go drive to the gym, I get to think, me in my car by myself. So it really is efficient, just in a different way, right?
Yes, no, absolutely. Because those moments of calm, I think, really help in a lot of instances to reset your nervous system. If you are in just a constant state of information intaking, which most of us are, um, you might find yourself at the end of the day having trouble sleeping. You may have trouble connecting with people face to face. You're so used to receiving information, and a lot of the information. I mean, obviously, you work from home. I work from home as well. You're in meetings. You're talking to people, but when you're scrolling on your phone, when you're not in a meeting, you're staring at a screen and you're just intaking information constantly. The great thing about communication is taking the opportunity to, particularly face to face in person, you are receiving information, you're synthesizing that information, you have a moment to think, you can calmly provide a response to that information, but it's this back and forth that we're not really practicing. And you're seeing impacts around that, around the younger generations, because there's a book that came out. I don't even remember the author, but it's the anxious generation, and it's an observation of the unabated technology use of the first round of Gen Zers that were born. No restrictions had come out, no warnings had come out, and parents were handing these children screens all the time. They got in such a way of receiving that their communication skills have been interrupted. And because they weren't practicing just the general things we talked about. You go to the store and get groceries. You might run into somebody. You go work out. You might run into somebody and have that conversation. So all these little things that keeps our, just like you work out muscles to keep them strong. You work out your brain to make sure your neural pathways are firing really well. You go out and you connect with people and you conversate with people to keep your wit, to keep your conversation skills. It really does have an impact on you if you're not engaging with anything. Just like your body deteriorates from sitting around, your social skills deteriorate from non-use.
Yeah.
It's a pretty, it feels strange even having the conversation. This is not something I've ever thought that I would need to discuss, but
Yeah, but you
it's
do. But
yeah, exactly.
the audience is going to be, because you're right. It's crazy that we're talking about this, and you sparked some audience questions flying in. Here's one that I think is really interesting. They must know you. What sparked your leadership path?
Oh, you know, I I really, in my late teenage years, I'd say once I gained some skills from Patrick Still, he was my Shotokan instructor. I noted that, understanding discipline for myself and showing up in a way in group activities or anything else, and showing up in a way that I was self disciplined. People pick up on that and they observe that. So I found myself in college and in jobs I had, people relying on me to make decisions. And I think also I don't walk around fearless, but I'm not afraid to make a decision and accept the consequences of that decision. So it's like I'm okay with making the decision. I'm going to do the best of my abilities with it, and I'm going to take whatever the outcome is. If I fail in my decision, I'm going to learn from it, adapt and keep moving. If I succeed, wonderful. Hopefully, I'll get a pat on the back, and that's great. So I found myself in these instances where I was like leading groups, leading conversations, leading, different projects at work, and because of that, I actually got formal leadership training. So I really, I worked in retail for a number of years, and I think that's good for anybody's social skill set. You see the good, the bad, and the ugly of everyone if you work in retail. But we had a leadership strategy within that, situational leadership. And I love the situational leadership model. I think it is wonderful. People get in a situation where they seem like they're a really high achiever, and then they get everything dumped on them. Well, I can count on that person because they did so well at, this task A. Situational leadership says they may be great at task A, but task B, they may need help with that. They may need development with that. So it's recognizing people where they are. And that concept of really looking at each individual where they are, recognizing that they may need my support, they may not, but taking the time to figure that out, that really sparked me into wanting to be a leader, not a manager, not somebody that just made decisions or expected to make decisions, but really invest in my understanding of what it meant to be a leader. And since then I've done numerous trainings and everything else, and obviously delving into social capital, understanding the human experience, trying to connect with people more authentically. All of those things have came in, but it was really my engagement in that situational leadership model that I was like, there's genuinely something here. This is a very operationally minded yet human connecting point around how to be a leader, and I love that.
Yeah, sounds comfortable, meaning
Yeah,
simple.
yeah.
Simple. Still taking the step is the hard part. So following the leadership theme, we got another question here. I love this question. Most underused leadership challenge practice.
Mm. Honestly, I think it's inspiring the heart. I think that people, so in the leadership challenge, inspire the heart was one of my favorites. But I see people trying to take a generic approach to that. Every individual, just like in situational leadership, they may be at a different skill set with a different activity or a different project that's being worked on. Inspiring the heart is not a we're going to do this one thing together and everybody's going to be super motivated. It's about understanding your people and what they need, how they need to grow, what their goals are for themselves, and embracing that. For me, inspiring people is showing up in the other things from the leadership challenge. So, walking the talk, doing what you say you're going to do, but then realizing that that looks different for the people that you lead, each person that you lead. Success is defined differently for each person that you lead. So whereas I can show up and give a great inspirational speech, I might know that I'm going to have a private conversation with somebody on my team and help them along a little bit. I may know that somebody on my team may think that my inspirational leaderships are just silly, and they know that I'm helping other people, but they don't connect with them at all. So we've got to have a private conversation, just be real, I find that underlying meaning. So that's one of the things I think that people think that they can know a leadership model, show up, be inspirational, and everybody's just going to follow suit and everything's going to be great. And it's just not that easy. We are eccentric, we are unique, we have different levels of trust, we have different levels of trauma. So yeah, inspire the heart.
Is this your challenge that you put on, or is it the
Oh,
leadership challenge?
so
Is that yours?
So I would love it if it was mine, but no, I have great authors, Posner and Coos. So Posner and Coos wrote the Leadership Challenge, and they've been doing annual research for 30 years, and they've been asking what makes a great leader, and the tenets of that book have remained constant for 30 years. I have an old copy. I used to teach it in my leadership class. It's all tabbed out. But they update it every year, and I assume they're still doing it. I haven't bought a new copy in like 5 years, so bear with me, people. But they consistently every year it was the same exact qualities that make a leader.
What's there's a ton there, I'm sure, but what's one tenet that really strikes out to you that they brought up for a leader?
Yep. So I would just say I'm going to lean on the two that I've presented is
Yeah.
that do what you say you will do. It just feels so cliche to me. Some things have hit me throughout my research and conversations with people like that is so insightful. That is so incredible. I would have never thought of that. When I seen do what you say you're going to do, I was just like, well, duh. Like that's a given. Like that seems just like a cliche statement. And this was before I engaged with the fact that they had been doing this for so long, and this is backed by research. So once I got into the meat of the book, like it really made sense. But the the concept of that has so much more depth to it because in doing that, you're creating consistency, which builds trust with your team. And even in the presence of someone not liking everything that you do, consistency is appreciated because your team knows what to expect from you. Like I said, and even if it's something they don't like, they know the good things about you, the bad things about you, what you're working on. But that consistency piece, that reliability piece, it really taps in honestly to some biases that we have as human beings. But it does build trust with your team. It's just so multifaceted. And you look at it at face value, and like, yeah, of course, obviously, if I do what I say I'm going to do, people will trust me. Yeah, it's way more complex than that.
Well, it's not happening, Rick. I'm going to tell you. That's
Yeah,
the other thing. I think, I went duh when you said it too in my head, duh. Then I stopped and we know that, but I talk to people all the time that don't. One day their boss is screaming at them. The next day the boss is saying they're the greatest employee in the world.
yeah,
Very inconsistent and just frustrates the hell out of humans. And you're not going to have a great day all the time, but trying to be as consistent as you can. We're not perfect. And
yeah.
you're not saying that. I want people to understand. He's not saying you need to be perfect, but get better
Yes,
as humans.
absolutely. And here's the thing too, there's a lot of things that impact you as a leader and being able to execute on that. You have to find a company that embodies that belief as well. Because if you have top leadership providing inconsistent messaging to you, your messaging to your team is then inconsistent as well. So these inconsistent behaviors might be a reflection of what you're dealing with. You may be told by top leadership, our focus is X and Y, do X and Y, and you tell your team and y'all consistently do X and Y. Team's really executing on that. And, on Thursday, great job on X and Y. We're killing it. We're doing great. We're hitting all of our numbers. We're doing whatever. And then they come out on Friday and top leadership's like, actually, we should be focused on A and B. So then that leader goes back and like, well, you aren't doing anything right. This is not what our focus is anymore. And it's about, you know, finding yourself in an even kill and gaining skills so you can filter that information properly. But for a new leader, it feels like whiplash. And then if you don't prepare yourself to deliver that message to your team, it feels like whiplash to them. And then you look inconsistent.
So humans, purpose is such a big thing. I just had a talk this morning on a podcast I did. We talked about purpose. Tie human social capital, leadership, and purpose and how they all are intertwined.
Yeah. I think, purpose is an expansive topic in itself because there are, so many schools of thought on that. Like if we have one true calling, I've heard that conversation. It's something in human beings. We're looking for something. We're looking to be something, looking to do something, look to be impactful, remembered, whatever. Purpose is defined by the individual. And I think that we've had a hard time owning what our true purpose is because we're fed so many things from society about what we're supposed to be. So, my encouragement for everyone in regards to social capital, I want everyone to prep themselves to be their authentic self, understand their self, understand their needs, and have a great relationship with their self before they're going out and interacting with others and trying to create these deep, meaningful relationships. So, you know, in regards to purpose, understanding oneself and what you need, filling up your cup, knowing that, what your boundaries are and all those things, that helps you define your legitimate purpose. Instead of society telling me, as a man, in American society in the United States, I should be successful. I should be driving this kind of car. I should be. No, it's really about like knowing me. When I know me, I can know my purpose. And if I know my purpose, then when I interact with other people and that authenticity, I can help other people know their purpose.
Yeah, and social media is to do exactly what you said. Why aren't you driving a Tesla? I'm here in California. I'll never drive a Tesla. I don't need to be like, I run away from that, and you're like me too. We run away from that because we
Yep.
just want people to be authentic. That's not authentic, and that's social capital. Capital does not grow. Social capital without authenticity. Once you lie,
Absolutely.
right, your trust
Yep.
goes down the tubes.
Absolutely. It's and this is a statement that we've probably all heard, but trust is easy to lose. It's really hard to get back.
Yeah,
So
it is, and people will do it. We're trying to be forgiving and grace and all that, but just use a marriage. You cheat on your wife or infidelity. That's really hard because it's so intimate. Not saying you can't if you work hard at it. That's the great thing about social capital and humans. We will forgive. Just some things take a lot harder than others. I was late to a meeting with you. Let's say not a big deal, but it happened this week. I'll just say that lady misplaced the time. She came in 10 minutes late. She's apologizing up and down. I said, I got time to meet. I could have been, no, I'm not going to meet with you. You're late, which I've had people do, not to me, but to other people.
yeah,
Um, to me, that's not social capital. It's like 10 minutes is not going to change your life. You could go back and go, hey, I'm really busy. 10 minutes makes a difference. Bull crap. That you're just overthinking everything. It's crazy to me. And it turned out to be a great call. And she was so thankful. So I increased my social capital with her because she's going to give me some referrals.
yeah.
I was
No,
if I was a dick, it would have been all over. She would done.
absolutely. I think, Steve, honestly, I think I was late for our first call too when we were just meeting each other because I had
Yes,
something come up. Yeah,
yes,
I
right.
myself was late. And it's just understanding the human experience. I don't think we give enough grace or time, and the whole concept of we're too busy for anything. I'm just going to call that out as a crock anyway. That whole concept that we're so busy we don't have time for anything. We allocate so much time to things that are just time sucks. Scrolling, online shopping, whatever. We claim that we're looking for efficiencies and we're putting things before connection to gain efficiency, and then we're doing things, we're eating up that efficiency gain with meaningless things. And then, at the end of the week, we're sitting around twiddling our thumbs and wondering why we feel so lonely and so disconnected. And, we don't have time. People will make time for things they care about. Tristan was here and he always said that, like, if it's important to you, you make time for it. And that's absolutely true. You can make time for the things that are important to you.
Yeah, and I use golf. I used to love playing golf. I would still love to play it. I was just talking about my podcast today. It's funny, we're kind of parallel. And I just don't have time to spend 5 hours. I'd love to. It gets me out. It's awesome. But is it efficient for me? Is it no? No, I can't be helping people and I can't help grow my business when I do that for what I do. Now, other people go play golf. It's efficient because they meet with vice presidents and they do business there.
Yep.
That's awesome. And we're not saying that. You got to look in the mirror and say, is it the right thing for me? Not for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just understanding yourself, understanding your purpose, aligning everything you do or the parts of yourself to allocating time to the things that are important to you. And that's part of the journey. That's part of understanding yourself. That's part of, doing the work. It's when I just see individuals, you know, they're at the end of the week they don't even feel like proud in the way they've spent their week. They not only didn't connect with anybody, but the time they did spend doing other things, it wasn't toward the goals that they had set for themselves. And it just gets into this repetitive cycle of just spending time in manners that either chasing quick dopamine releases, oxytocin, whatever, these quick hits, and not really putting the time in to have those genuine releases. When we experience with connection, when we're around somebody that we hold dear, when we hug, when we talk, when we share experiences, that's the real things that we want to happen within our brain. Those are the real chemical releases. That's what we want to feel. And we're just substituting it with just things that are of no benefit to us, no benefit to our neural pathways, no benefit to our physical bodies, no benefit to us networking wise with our career. Um, and then, like I said, we sit around confused on Friday evening wondering why we feel lonely.
And Friday we are. And audience, by the way, if I was, I'll use the word, an idiot about him being late, he wouldn't be a great guest on my TV show. I would have missed out by being so, I call it selfish. It's like, yeah, I've been late to meetings and people have been very gracious to me. And it just, that's how we do good stuff. Well, we're going to take a break. Time flew on this. I knew it would. Let's let Rick take a break, get some water. I'm going to go take a break. We're going to watch his part of his TEDx talk. You guys grab the link. We'll get it to you. But you want to listen to this because I listened to it this morning and I literally was taken back. So let's start that. And we'll see you back in 5 or 6 minutes.
How important is an advisor? How important are your peers? We think. But beyond that knowledge transfer, we have the ability to connect and transform our entire lives. When I reflect back on my own collegiate journey at the University of Tennessee at Martin, I can't help but think of a few pivotal figures that transformed my life. Dr. Carol Eckert. Dr. Eckert brought me to the intersection of art history, civilization, and religion, and she formed the groundwork for my current spiritual path. Jason Stout. Jason Stout told me that there was more to music than listening to emo every morning at 8 a.m. Lane Last. Lane taught me that you should always be yourself if being yourself meant that you had crazy hair and wore a floral shirt and strapped sandals to class every day. And Dr. David Macbeth. David taught me that even a big, burly man can make the most delicate pottery. And there were others. Doug Cook, Diane Shaw, Melanie Hollis, Pamela Fiedler. The list goes on and on. And I didn't know it at the time, but these faculty members were also teaching me how to connect with people that were very different than me. People that had different interests and life experiences, and people that looked at the world very differently than me. They were helping me to challenge my biases, and they were showing me how to connect with those around me. They were teaching me how to build and utilize social capital. You can imagine that when I became an adjunct professor at Southern New Hampshire University's Salem Center, that I carried this with me. I knew that I had more to contribute to this world than just that knowledge transfer. I had an even greater responsibility to the students around me. I had to take the time to understand their story, their interests, what they needed from me, who they were. And to take it a step further, I had to ensure that I encouraged them to do the same with me and their peers around them. I had learned that true transformation comes through exploration and cultivation of human relationships. These relationships help us to expand our reach and our social capital. I've mentioned social capital a couple of times now, and you may not be familiar with what that is, but essentially, social capital is the value derived from positive connections between people. Social capital is built from relationships, your relational capital. What you have to share with the world, your cognitive capital. And your brand, or how the world sees you, your structural capital. And although technology, social media, and the pandemic have had extreme impacts on the way we connect, the importance of human connection has not changed. We all need each other. As with most things in our society that are meant to help people progress in a positive manner, Social capital, too, has been targeted and limited in support of antiquated hierarchy based around race, sex, and class. Through these archaic systems of racism, classism, sexism, and every manner of segregation in our society, we've created an in-group and we've created an out-group. The deliberate othering has created deep-seated biases within us and ushered in the creation of stereotypes for any and everyone that does not fit the mold of what our society considers a cultural norm. The exploration of this and many other topics has led to the creation of the Cognitive Bias Codex, which currently lists 188 known biases. If allowed to, these biases will manifest within us, and when we leave them unchecked, hinder our ability to create meaningful, diverse relationships. Relationships that are
Welcome back. Second half of Together We Serve. So what do you think about it? Are you human? How you doing your social capital? Is it going up or is it going down? Well, I'm excited. We're going to bring Rick back, and he's going to talk about his research. He's doing some research for a long time about all this. He's got some really cool data he's going to share with us, and we'll talk about a few other things. We have some questions that have come by. Actually, we'll start with a question. Let's bring Rick back. Rick, welcome back, my friend.
Hello.
Yeah, you really got me that first half of the show. I'm sitting here thinking, I'm looking at my computer like, I got to get out. So I walked outside for a second, and I did. And it felt so good. I got a question here. Talking about trust. Interesting question. How do you reopen trust after a breach? Well, we actually talked about that. But do you have any other tips for that?
I think, the first thing is truly showing up in empathy for the person that you've hurt their trust. And it's incredibly important to do this correctly, because I think a lot of times individuals, including myself for a long time, wanted to show up in defensiveness and explanation of the intention of the action. So when trust is breached, the least important thing to the person that has been harmed is your intention. As the giver of information and communication, or in this situation, you are the one that hindered the trust in the relationship. You do have to own your intention. You sit with that. It's not for the other person. You own that. They own the reaction, and you give them space for that reaction. They may have a positive reaction, negative reaction. If you've hurt trust, I'm assuming the reaction is going to be negative. So it's showing up outside of shame, because where we show up and start being defensive and trying to explain our intention is usually from a place of shame, where we can't accept the fact that we've broken that trust or we've harmed that person. So we have to understand that showing up and truly holding space for their emotion, not showing up and bursting into tears with them. You're taking up space and you're putting attention on yourself. Your emotions around the situation, as the offender, the breaker of the trust, they are relevant, but you either need to hold them or share them elsewhere, because in this moment, you're going to be there with the individual that you've harmed and give them space to explain to you in depth to how they felt, how they were impacted, the things about you, the way you showed up that harmed them, and you want them to feel seen, you want them to feel heard, and you want to give them space for that emotion. That situation doesn't just go away. It takes time. It takes repetition. We talk about building trust, and I pointed out in the leadership challenge, consistency in behavior. So we need to show up. We need to hear them, let them have time to show their emotion, make sure that we understand how we truly harmed them, apologize for that harm, and then show up in consistent repetition that we understand what we did, we understand what broke the trust, and prove to them over time that we are not going to break trust again in that manner, because their care, their feelings, their emotions, their faith in us is really important to us, and we are willing to change in a way that will redevelop that trust. It is a very complex process. And when people just approach it with these pardon my French, half-assed apologies, interrupting the person, or when we approach a person and they're trying to convey that they're still having feelings. You've had that initial conversation. They still have feelings about it. Like, this still hurts me that you would do that you would break my trust in that way. And we try to stop them from speaking or try to make excuses for what we did. It's just harming. We're causing more harm. You're creating an environment of repetition of that you're going to be defensive. You truly don't care about their emotions. You want them to get over it. So it's complex. It's deep.
They get over it. And then here's the answer: don't break the trust. Let's go back from the beginning. Just don't do it. I mean, things happen. We're fallible. God made us fallible for whatever reason. Someday I hope I can ask him, but just try not to do it. The infidelity or whatever, or steal, or. As a kid, I went to the store and stole a candy bar. I was hungry. I wanted that candy bar. I wanted that Baby Ruth. I love Baby Ruth. Yeah, that was wrong. I ruined the trust, but I learned from that to never do that again because it doesn't help anybody.
And that's what makes it a mistake and not a behavior.
Everyone's
allowed. Yeah. Everybody's allowed to make a mistake. You're going to make a mistake. You're going to mess up. When you do it for the 5th time, it's a behavior. If somebody's conveyed to you that the first time you broke their trust, and you've done it 4 more times past that, you've created a situation where you're saying my behavior and the feelings I get from that behavior are more important than this relationship.
Unfortunately, I think that's happening a lot. Again, COVID and mental health and things that are happening in this world. It's a tough go, and I appreciate all those great golden nuggets. I want to talk about your research. You're so fired up about it. I'm fired up about it. I don't even know much about it. Tell us about your research and what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll be honest. I'm the cynic in the room when it comes to social capital, and I stayed in that place for quite some time. I did my dissertation and just measured social capital under standard measures of, relational, cognitive, and structural capital, and I, focused my dissertation on that. Well, past that, I looked at loneliness because loneliness, pre-pandemic and even now, it's just gotten worse. So we were experiencing a loneliness epidemic pre-pandemic. And then now I revitalized my article from that time this year, and it's not any better. It's actually gotten worse, which is very concerning. So all of that and looking at that, it made me feel very negative about the concept of social capital. And I'm seeing people connect less. I'm seeing more people report that they're lonely. I'm seeing people interacting in ways that just are off-putting to me. I go out and I see people at dinner. It's a family of 4, and everybody's got a screen. They're not even talking to each other. It's a time of supposed to be connecting about your day, all that. So it's just been, I had all this weight of the negativity and the things I'm reading in the literature about where we're headed in regards to connection and communication. And yeah, so this year I went to speak about social capital at Sorbonne University in Paris, France. And while I was there, I was at an Airbnb with 3 other social capitalists there, and I got to really thinking, like, there's got to be something that I can do to try to help this situation. And I've really leaned into understanding the situation that we're in. As millennials, I'm a millennial, and I'm looking at my generational label there. We were born pre cell phone, pre social media, and then as we grew, these things came out. In our late teenage years and all that. So our parents never made rules around the usage of phones and social media and other forms of communication that have approached us through this hyper technological advancement we've experienced in our lifetime. And I know that I'm just speaking as a millennial because that's what I am, but Gen X, same scenario, Boomer, same scenario. Anybody we've been before technology, we've seen it, and now we're on this other side of it. So now we've had to create rules for our kids, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, around technology usage. And it's been standard practice for many, many millennials or anybody who has children during this time to say, limiting screen time, no social media usage, turning your cell phone at night, making these parameters around how we connect. We, Gen X, Boomers, millennials, we've never had rules created for us around this usage. So we've tried to rely on our default mechanisms of how to utilize the technology correctly. And Steve, I've said this with you a couple of times now. It's like our brains are like 50 years post-industrial revolution. We're dealing with technology that's way advanced. It's advanced so much quicker than what we've been able to understand how to utilize it correctly. So if I can say all that, and I feel pretty confident that that is accurate, it gave me like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I can see what's happening. I can understand why it's happening. I might be able to try to help address this. So I utilize the RFDS, which is a relational diagnostic tool used by psychologists, and it's a 6-item tool, and it looks at how connected you feel to those around you. And I've posed that against the CBI-12, which is the Cognitive Behavioral Index 12, which I created, which has 4 constructs, and it has questions related to how we connect. So there's questions about if you connect face-to-face. There's connections if you connect through the internet, through social media, cell phone, all of the things are there. And I'm looking at correlation between how connected people feel through the original part of the survey. And then my CBI-12 is saying, okay, so this person evidently feels really connected or not. And then how are they utilizing the technology or face-to-face time to connect with people? And I'm looking at correlation there. Early examination of what I've got from my initial responses. And I'm hoping to close this down in December, because I'm going to present on it in Dubai in March. Once I run the data, but preliminary look at the data is showing that there is a pretty heavy correlation between people who connect face to face and how connected people feel, which is what I'm expecting to see. Now, I can get way more answers. There may be a great variance later, but as of right now, and what I'm expecting to see is that people are using more of face-to-face communication or digital communication that includes video and things like that. We're probably going to see a correlation to how connected they feel to those around them. That being said, I think all forms of communication are viable. Every type of communication has a use case that fits a situation. So I want to say that any way you can connect with another human being is viable. I'm just trying to give a framework to the general populace to say, if you want to create deep, meaningful connections and you want to sustain those deep, meaningful connections, then here is how you should be spending your time in regards to that individual. You should be connecting with that individual face to face X% of time. You should be connecting with that individual on social media X% of time, so that we're not just left to rely on our default efficient behaviors that are leaving us feeling lonely. So everybody's different. We've already discussed that, Steve. And I know that this is not a silver bullet of any stretch of the imagination. But what I think it is it's just like a guide to say, hey, from research that I have gathered, here is a somewhat of a broad formula. If you connect with people in this way, this percentage of time, there's a good chance that you won't feel so freaking lonely on Friday afternoon.
Well, data's gold. It's the new gold. I tell people all the time, the more data you can get, the stronger you're going to be, whether it's personal or professional, business wise. It's huge that you're doing this, and it may give people answers which they don't have. Why we have a problem?
I hope so. I hope that it scratches the surface. It does something. I'm hoping that when I present it, it inspires others to take it further. I know there's so many places it can go and so many ways that we can use it and so much more to understand. But I'm just, as a human in our society, I'm sick of seeing that loneliness number creeping up and people out there, and we see mental health issues arising and everything else, and people engaging in behaviors, self-deprecating behaviors because they feel lonely. We don't have to feel that way. We have to be intentional about some behaviors, but we don't have to feel that way.
Yeah. Talking to somebody on a screen is not helping loneliness.
Yeah.
Doing DMs back and forth. And I'm an old fogey. I'm 64. So that's what people tell me. But I'm a big tech guy. I got 5 monitors, 3 computers. I'm a big tech guy. I've been for a long time. But you mentioned that people on their phones. I just went to dinner Wednesday. I have such a pet peeve. There was a couple at the table that I could see looking at behind the TV. I was watching the game that was on with my wife. And the whole time for 30 minutes, they never looked up from their phones.
Mm.
Now, I don't know if they're friends, and people will say, I don't, but I know they're together because one time they got up and they nodded to, I mean, there was an interaction. So they were
Mm.
connected somehow.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like
I've,
you. You
yeah.
can't
I've
be,
seen people,
oh,
it seemed like they were on their first date. It seemed like they were on their first date. Like it felt uncomfortable, but they were obviously there in a romantic way and they were zoned out on their phone. And I'm just like, maybe they're not into each other. I don't know. But it just feels so disrespectful. For me, a date, for me, a meeting with another person, particularly face to face, I have asked you to make me the most important thing in your life for an hour. And I should give you the same courtesy. You could be anywhere doing anything, and you've chose to come here to this coffee shop and sit across from me. You're giving up something you can never get back. You're giving up time out of your life to be there with me. And I'm going to sit there glued to my phone the whole time. It's just such a disrespectful thing for me personally. That's just a moral stance I take.
I'm so behind you on that. And we're not saying, if you've got kids, the phone rings, oh, it's my babysitter, or
Absolutely.
something
Yeah.
comes up and, oh, I don't need to take that. I'm fine with all that. It's
Yeah.
this.
Yes.
And this is 2003. You just came up with gave me a great idea, or not a great story. I ran a restaurant. It was small, 8 tables. It was 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. And there was a couple, I know there are couples, I knew them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the guy got up 4 times to take a phone call. 4
Oh,
times.
my goodness.
She starts crying. I'm going, forget her name. Are you okay? Oh, I'm fine. She didn't tell me, but she became lonely. Exactly what you're saying, Rick, even though her husband was sitting right across from her.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so bad.
It's
That's
amazing to me.
2003, by the way, Rick. That's
Oh yeah.
2003. Nowadays, it's like, and by the way, he came back and I said, everything okay? He goes, well, I got to take, I knew him. So I had to
Yep.
take the call. It's work. Nothing's
Mm.
that important unless they're saying, hey, you just, an employee died he's a control contractor, died on a construction site. It can hold off for 40 minutes.
Yeah. No, exactly. And that's the thing too. Like you brought up earlier. Obviously, yeah, kids. Emergency situation. Yeah, and that's just good communication. Like, if you know babysitter's calling, just communicating that to the other person. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Just that staring blankly and scrolling at the dinner. Like I said, you're just there's something for me that's special about somebody. Every meeting I've had, I've been meeting with people since I left Paris. I put that open call out to me. I met with you, Steve, and it's important to me that you've agreed to do that for me. That you have agreed that, out of all the things you could be doing, I'm worth talking to, and I want you to feel that way in my presence. That I'm appreciative, and I'm thankful for that, and I want to demonstrate the same to you, the same courtesy, the same presence.
Yeah. We've come to the end here. Actions speak louder than words. We'll leave with that. You've been incredible, Rick. Real quick, we got a minute. If I reserved a jet plane of 4 seats, who would you invite in the 3 other? It's like like the restaurant we're for the podcast, but we're
Yep.
flying now. Where would you
Flying.
fly to, and what 3 people would you invite?
I would fly to Keflavik because I love Iceland. I could just be in Iceland all the time. So if
Beautiful.
we're going to a destination, that's where I want to go. I don't even care what time of the year it is. Who am I taking? Who's coming with me? Always my ride or die, my partner Allison. She's going to be there 100%. And then who are the other 2 people? Honestly, anybody. Wow. I would probably bring. I was really connecting last time, and now I'm trying to just make it a party. I would bring Maynard James Keenan again because I just want to hang out with him. And I would bring who else would be great for that? Oh man, this is hard. I'd go ahead and just bring Danny Carey too, the drummer from Tool as well. So it'd be me, Allie, and 2 members of Tool heading to Keflavik.
Great trip, Rick. God bless you. Thank you so much. This has been great. Audience, see you next week, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Together We Serve TV show. And you know what? Build your social capital. Get back to me and Rick and let us know how you did that. Thank you, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.